All right. Hi, everybody. Uh, Thank you so much for having me here today. I always like to start off by introducing myself. I'm Benny. I grew up in Minneapolis and then moved to Madison, Wisconsin to go to school and have since came back to Minneapolis. Um, so yeah, I'm a Minnesota born and raised. I was really excited to talk to you guys today because it's it's been a mission of mine to make sure that we're serving the Midwest, specifically Wisconsin and Minnesota. Those are my personal number twos as well as our companies. So with that in mind, I'll kind of kick off my presentation here, please. I like to be casual, so feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions. I'll even go ahead and prematurely put my contact information in the chat there. Or if anybody else wants to poke around on my LinkedIn instead, that'll work too. Well, with that in mind, though, I will share my screen here. Okay, here we go. Present. Can you guys see my screen all right? Okay, cool. And here I'm gonna get rid of this. All right, so we're Virtual United. We're all about virtual events. And I'll show you what I'm talking about in a second here. So events are a lot of fun. I mean, we're here at an event right now, but meeting people and interacting with people has changed quite a bit this year. Specifically, despite the pandemic, there's still a high need for to meet people one-on-one and to have these connections. Not only is it impossible to meet at in-person events right now, but it's costly. There's a lot of travel expenses. You got to rent a location. And more than anything else, like the pandemic has seen us really connect as a global community. And as kind of brazen of a thing as that is to say, it's very difficult to actually reach a global community. And so in that note, we really felt like virtual networking serves a really great ability to connect people at virtual events. The problem is that for a lot of formats, our current offerings for virtual networking just aren't there. So, for example, if you come to an event on Zoom, and if you've got 40 people in the room, but you know who you want to talk to, right? You've got your friends that are there, you've got your target, you know who you want to talk to. But so often we'll enter that event and we won't be able to say hi, right? We'll be one of these three people, and we'll be stuck in a large group instead of being able to just walk over and say hello to who we know we want to talk to. So we've made that organic connection possible, and we're giving back the agency to intentionally move around at virtual networking events. So the way that freedom works is similar to, if you walked into a room at an in-person event. It's small conversations. It's a bunch of different small conversations. It's kind of similar to breakout rooms, but so like what you see here is what you'd see when you'd enter. And you could either choose to join a conversation. You can scroll down and find people that aren't in conversations and start new ones. But at any time you can come back and essentially find who you're looking for, whether that's a friend or a target customer, and join a new conversation and mingle. So we really do, looking at the space of virtual events, there's a lot of potential for what is possible, but the event space is underserved. All too often, there's tools that have been designed for meetings and tools that have been designed for communications that are being used as event platforms. And we don't think that's right. So we see ourselves as comparative to Zoom, a lot more free form and giving you an ability to move around and be intentional. Comparing it to other digital communities and other platforms where people communicate online a lot, we're very event focused. And then comparing us to other, specifically to virtual networking platforms, we really want to streamline the experience and keep it really authentic, and also provide that keystone, like that key business value. So how do we get our message out there? It's kind of nice because we're a networking platform, and so we network. Our events help promote us. Anytime we have a large event on our platform, it helps get the word out there for us. We have an event today that's 250 people, and we didn't do any of the promotions. So I was like, oh, there you go. So that's kind of how our messaging has gone, and it's been really successful. It's been really, really awesome to hear all the support from our community and all the people that are excited about seeing, about what we've been doing. So our team, right? It's all about the team. We couldn't do it, we couldn't do any of this without some really brilliant human beings. So we've got our CEO, Ben Hansen, our CTO, Juliet, I myself, and then another engineer, Robinson. Really what's so special about us is that we all have a technical background, but we're really driven to bring this product to life, and we really like working together. And so it's just the perfect team. If anybody's been on a team before, and they're just like, man, these people, we're gonna make this happen no matter what. That's the team we've got. So it's really, really incredible. Our pricing, we really want to keep it simple. Down the road, we may end up raising our pricing, but right now we're modeled similar to Zoom. So it's about, if we've got either 50 attendees or 100 attendees, but other than that, we have no limitations. So it's as many as you want, whatever you'd like to do. Other than that, yeah, so moving right into our challenges. A lot of this is new experience for us. I also had a software and website and app development company that was my first venture into entrepreneurship, but managing my pipeline and kind of learning how to best serve my customers has been a challenge. It's new to me. It's been a challenge. Additionally, as is I think the case with a lot of small companies and startups, finding investors and partners who see our vision and want to help grow with us and be a part of the ground floor. Our ask, and maybe we'll come back to this later too, but we could really use introductions to chambers of commerce. We find that there's a lot of value there that is struggling. It's tough to provide to provide networking opportunities right now, and so we think we can really help. And similarly, virtual event organizers. Of course, also we love groups that want to help us experience this. And so, and so we're looking for beta testing groups where we can say, hey, this is our brand new release. We're always, a release ahead of what we've got on our live servers, and would be willing to help us poke around and kind of play with it and kind of try to break it and experience it. And yeah, any groups that would want to do something like that. Perhaps I know, because we've talked to 1 Million Cups before, but it's finally time for us to talk to Ben McDougall, who I believe is the regional organizer. So that would be much appreciated. All of that in mind, though, yeah, here we are at a virtual event, right? Here I am getting to meet all of you, and I also wanted to. Well, I'll come back to that later. This is what we do. This is what I've really enjoyed doing because. I'll keep this up for questions, because it enables me to kind of get it. Well, I love talking to people, and in the pandemic, a lot of that was lost. And so it's really exciting to be able to do that every day, to be able to enable other people to do that, and just to be a part of these virtual events, which we think provide a tremendous amount of value and have a lot of untapped potential. So. With that in mind, I'll open up to feedback, and thank you again for letting me be here.
Awesome. Thank you for your presentation, Benny. I will have you pull down your share screen during questions, and then we can put it back up at the end so people can grab that contact information again. Yvonne with her great presentation. Again, same process as earlier. Either use the raise your hand function, or you can type a question in chat and I'll call on you. Not seeing any right now. The first question that I had, one of the as someone who's used these types of platforms before, and I'll jump the gun a bit and say I've already used that Calendly link to get a deeper discussion with Benny. One of the things that I've found is the biggest challenge with using anything that isn't Zoom right now is the experience of the people on the other end of the platform who've never used it before. They know exactly what to do when they've come into a Zoom meeting. You know, I've had maybe one meeting in the last 2 months where there was someone in attendance who hadn't had to use Zoom before, and that was just astounding. But then people get into programs like this, and there's that learning curve. So can you talk about what you've done to help combat that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd start by saying it's something we think we will always be working on, because literacy in tech is really important. I actually had my background as an IT guy, and I understood just how, yeah, it can be difficult. But that being said, really through feedback from our community. So the first step of that was having beta groups where we had a chamber of commerce that said, hey, you know, like, our people would love to help you test this. And the organizer knew what was going on, but nobody else did, right? And so we got to throw 40 people at it who had no idea what it was, you know, just kind of walk into a room and see what happened. And that gave us a tremendous amount of feedback as to this was confusing, this wasn't, and we made changes. And so then after a few rounds of that, we did it again with a launch event. And when we launched, it was the same story, except this time we had over 100 people. And so we really started to see, oh, okay, 20 people have said this now, it's definitely confusing. And so it's an ongoing process. It's definitely a challenge, but just listening to people and then coming back, you know, writing all those down, tallying up what people think, and then making those changes and trying it again has been our kind of rinse and repeat model.
Awesome. Yvonne has a question.
Well, you mentioned customer support. That's always tricky as you're scaling up a new business. Specifically, are you challenged by having enough customer support staff? Is it the 24/7 issue? Is it the quality of the support, you know, that is needed? What specific kind of challenge are you having with customer support?
Yeah, I would say that it may be the staff, but I think part of it is that I have a natural tendency to do a lot of customer support and to really kind of overdo what some people, you know, what other people in my role might do. And so I'm finding myself now where I'm like, wow, you know, we've got somebody that's got a $20 a month subscription, and I'm sitting here doing 3 hours of customer support, but, you know, like, they didn't even ask for it, but I thought I was going, you know, so it's kind of just developing a good line in the sand as to this is where I'm doing a good job, and this is where, you know, this is where it's not necessary. And just learning more about, like, because I've done customer support in kind of a low volume sales pipeline kind of thing, where you really do want to be over delivering, because the relationships are really important, and the relationships are really important here as well. But I haven't quite cracked how much time should I put into this, and how should I balance that.
Right. Well, I mean, it's real easy to do that, to kind of go, oh, this is only a $20 a month account. But if it's $20 a month over a year, you know, you're getting a couple $100, and the value of them telling somebody that they got excellent customer service should also be factored in. How much would it cost you to run an ad that would give you the value that that person telling 5 of their friends about the amazing customer service they got, you know, is gonna matter there too. Do you use like live chat or automated systems for you know, the 50% of the questions that are fairly simple and routine?
We do, and I think the part that I do struggle is, like, because it's an event, there's so many other parts of an event than just the software.
Right.
And we're curious about learning about those pieces of value so that we can fit ourselves in. But I have a tendency to just say, hey, I'm going to help you organize your whole event, and I'm going to help you make sure that we do all of this and do all of these things. And it's like, yeah, so we do use the automated systems, but the problem kind of becomes that I'm full of ideas and I want to help, but then it's like, I can't do that with everybody. And so it's like, how do I know what's being supportive and what's being like an event organizer, when ultimately I am not an event organizer?
I was going to say, you know, that could be a premium service. For an extra service, then I will sit and help you do, all these other things that you want to do every once in a while. That could be
I like that idea.
Amount,
I like that idea a lot.
Just charge them for it and then continue doing what you love doing.
Yeah.
Yvonne jumped the gun. I was going to say that same thing as soon as you mentioned you're sort of acting as an event, an event organizer at times. Create a pricing model for that, and then people understand why they don't get it if they haven't paid for it, right? Whereas if someone buys the service and they're like, well, I don't know how to create an event, and then they want you to do it for them, and they don't, as the customer, it's pretty rare to think, oh yeah, I only paid $20 for this. I can't expect 3, 4, 5 hours of work from staff on it. But then if they see the pricing, here's what 5 hours of staff support would cost to help you set up your event, then they're like, oh yeah, I didn't pay them that extra, couple $100 or whatever that might be. Or if you do give it to them, one thing I did in the sales world is we'd sometimes give people things for free. We'd send them an invoice. We'd zero it out, right? So it might cost $500. We'd put a negative $500. So at least they understood the extra value that they got. That's just another thing that you might want to consider. Shalom had some comments.
Myself. Hi, Benny. Great presentation, and thanks for presenting today. Yeah, so I think the only piece of suggestion that I might have is in relation to your investor needs. And generally, before our virtual reality thing that we're doing right now, I did some, startup. I did a mobile health startup that was acquired by the government of Ghana. And that entire process, brought me in contact with a lot of resources for accelerator programs. And I saw that you had the generator, that you guys have probably been through generator. Yeah, I'm aware of that. But I think there's also some value in thinking about, Techstars or Y Combinator. Those are good accelerators that could potentially give you support to, essentially reach escape velocity, right, nationally and globally. So yeah, that's just a few thoughts that I had there.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. That's actually a good time too. I wanted to chime in and say how cool I think what you guys are doing is. Everyone else was stealing all my comments before, so I was like, oh, okay. But I really do think that the VR element is like a new dimension of what it is to be a place online. And I think if we fast forward 10 or 15 years, it's going to be the same thing as like having a website. It's like, you're going to need to do it, and so I think what you're doing is fascinating. I think there's so much room to grow in it, and I applaud you guys, because it's what you're doing is really awesome. So, and thank you for the comment on the accelerator programs. I do appreciate that. And I'll actually, I see the Gust. I'm not familiar with Gust. If you could maybe mention what's Gust?
Yeah, so I'm familiar with f6s.com. Yes, so F6S, so Gust is like that, but I think they have inbuilt other values, like, how to figure out what percentage of shares to give to co-founders. Like, they have a really organized system for entrepreneurs as well. So, yep.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
On that topic of investors, I noticed that your CTO graduated from Berkeley. And most elite universities have their venture capital groups that specialize in funding businesses that are led by alumni of those universities. A quick Google search for venture capital Berkeley alumni shows there's a large number. So that becomes another opportunity for increased funding just from the connections that your CTO might have.
And you mentioned, Benny, that you wanted to get in touch with Ben at 1 Million Cups. He's our Midwest regional contact. So he's kind of our contact between us and the Kauffman Foundation. And he would be a great connection. He just wrote a book about startups. That's really good. But the other person that you might consider connecting with is Dee Hamill. Dee is one of the leaders at the Kauffman Foundation of 1 Million Cups itself across the country. She's the person that runs the Organizer Summit each year. Super high energy, always interested in new ideas. She'd be a cool person to talk to.
Yeah, no, I would really appreciate that. That'd be fantastic. Yeah, thank you.
I'll email you her contact info.
Ashley has another comment in chat, and before she gets into that, I'll interject again, and that I always love when we have two presenters and they're offering ideas to each other. So I want to make sure that all of you know you have a perpetual open invitation to come to any of our future events, because you guys are running the businesses yourselves. You're in the trenches, so we know you have great ideas. We'd love to see you guys back in the future whenever you can make it. But with that, I'll turn it over to Ashley for her comment.
Thanks. Yeah, so Benny, I was just wondering about conferences. You know, there's all kinds of different conferences that have been canceled this year because of COVID and stuff. And so just wondering if you've contacted some of the organizers of those conferences and offered your services.
Yeah, that's a great idea. No, thank you. And we have. What we've learned is that the conferences, there's a lot of different things that they want to be able to do. And when you're developing out a new product, you gotta pick your battles, right? So we actually we don't even have messaging yet, right? Like in event messaging, you know, like it's coming soon, right? And so what we found is a lot of these networking organizations, they're okay with that, you know, because the face-to-face is what's important anyways, you know, and they're like, oh, this is awesome. But the conferences, they're like, we're going to need that. So that's a great idea, because we're continuing to explore it and think about it. We're thinking that right now we might need to wait for a few more feature upgrades, but definitely something we're in the sights of, and I like where your head's at.
Benny, does your program have that, what would you call it, a hybrid approach where you can have both the jumping around face-to-face, but also main stage presenters, or no? That's coming in our 2 feature upgrades away, yes. And the thing we like about it is it gives sponsors and presenters, or sponsors mostly, but a chance to really display their message. And it allows for that, hey, we're going to learn about this, and then we're going to break into small groups and talk about it. So we are, but it's looking like February for that. Have you contacted anyone about job fairs on your? We have a startup fair that we actually are co-organizing, because I'm also a member of an entrepreneur organization in Madison, Wisconsin. And so we're thinking about a job fair, and it'll be our trial event for it. Cause yeah, we think that it gives a good place to kind of be that open room that you can walk around in and kind of explore, as well as still being that face-to-face one-on-one Zoom. And so we do think it's a good fit for that kind of thing. Okay. Yeah, and some of these things that I was asking, they come from thinking, what are the things that I attend virtually? And as a tool to try to find who are those people that you should be contacting, it's easy to think, who are the people that organize virtual events, typically? But there's a lot that I take part of that you wouldn't think of. There's an organization that I meet with that 3 times a year, they get a number of businesses together. The businesses present on what they're doing, and then the attendees can go and have opportunities to chat with those businesses afterwards. And that's why I asked, do they have the ability to present? Because what we currently don't have is the ability to chat with those businesses afterwards. Now we've just gotten the presentations and we've lost the communication. It would be a good fit for you when, once you get that 2 steps further. And what might make sense for you is to reach out to those people that you already have connections with and say, can you make a list of the companies that you have virtual meetings with? And those might all be productive for you. Yeah, thank you. I like that idea. And I also wanted to, I thought of one other thing I wanted to mention to the group quick, which is, I do networking, right? But it's also because I really enjoy connecting people. So I'd love to, if people do want to add me on LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn a lot, but also let me know how I can help. I've got experience web design, well, mostly web development. I'm not a good designer. I've got experience with campus organizations and college entrepreneurs, but I'd love to help however I can. So if there's anything
any introductions I could make for you guys, or any advice, I'd love to give it, because I love meeting new people. So I wanted to mention that one more time, and I'll toss my contact information one more time to put it at the bottom. But thank you so much, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you, Benny. And if I don't put those slides up, which tells me I wasn't keeping a good track of time here. So if someone
Extending the virtual hook.
Yep. Ask the final 1 million cups question.
Benny, what can we as a community do to help Virtual United?
Introductions to virtual event organizers. Similarly, if you know anybody that loves networking, I'd love to talk to them. And then if you are an event organizer and want to give this a try, I'd love to let you do that. So there you go. And thank you so much.